Speaking of the word unbelievable, it is unbelievable that Anthony Alvarado has a chutzpah to say he will not resign. Before American education succumbed to the jackals, before we surrendered to the lowest amongst us, before we became ashamed of our great heritage, Shakespeare was quoted far and wide, and Shakespeare seemed to have a word for it no matter what the subject. And he did say, or had his protagonist Hamlet say, I believe, something's rotten in Denmark. Well, something certainly is rotten in a society that allows an Anthony Alvarado to become a chancellor of the public school system. And then when an Anthony Alvarado proves that he is unworthy of that great honor, of that awesome responsibility, when he proves that he is unworthy, you don't have the mayor and people of authority demanding that he resign. The mayor must be secretly quelling. If you recall, he wanted Bobby Wagner to be his chancellor. But because of a perverted sense of racial justice emanating in the hearts and minds of some self-styled demagogues, Eddie Koch could not have the man he wanted as the chancellor of the New York City Public Schools. You remember that? The people weren't interested in qualifications. The people weren't interested in rectitude. The people weren't interested in the quality of the person. They were only interested in his color or his alleged ethnic roots.
I'd like to make 2 points. Number one is, I think you overstated the case with Mr. Alvarado. I think he should be condemned, and I think he should be let go as soon as possible. But I don't think this was known beforehand of his financial dealings. Obviously, if they would have...
Nobody said they were known beforehand. If that guy hadn't pumped 3 bullets into a neighbor's house, nobody would have found out. I don't know what you mean by overstating the case. The fact of the matter is, the mayor didn't get the guy he wanted.
No, I'm saying that in your...
So what's overstating the case, pal?
In your opening remarks, okay, you said that because the mayor didn't get his case and because...
That's right. You don't think Bobby Wagner did all these things, do you?
Absolutely not. Okay, but I'm not here to defend him, but I think that it isn't that negative, and I think that the end result will be that he will be let go. That's number one. Number two...
Oh, in other words, if the end result is that he'll be let go, it's all right. It doesn't really say anything about us as a society, huh?
Absolutely. Okay, because...
Of course it says something about us. It says that we will succumb to blackmail time and time again. That's what it says.
The other part of it is the same reason that we don't hear much condemnation of Hymie Town. And I think that has to do with this case also. We don't want to... The Mayor Koch usually is not one to safeguard. He'll let it out, when he wants to make a remark. But here he's laid back a lot. Okay, and I think he doesn't want to be criticized for going too strong against the different ethnic...
Why? If what he's criticizing is justified, why would he hold back?
Because of this business with who he's criticizing.
In other words, the principle doesn't matter. What's right doesn't matter anymore.
That's what it seems to be.
Okay, then you agree with me, Irwin. Thank you very much. Irwin agrees with me. He had a strange way of telling me, though. Because of the pressure put on to name, quote, a minority, unquote, they really didn't do the thorough job they did. If you recall, many years ago in the Abe Beame administration, he wanted very desperately to name to a key post a black. And he had at the time his investigations commissioner, Nick Scapetta. And every time the mayor would appoint someone or want to appoint someone, Nick Scappetta would do his job. He'd investigate and find that for one reason or another, either non-payment of taxes, some indiscretion in the past, he couldn't get approval. They went through 4 people, if you recall.
Vaguely remember that, yes.
Yeah. And I remember the time I said, Demosthenes has been seen holding a lamp up. Was it Demosthenes? I think so. Holding a lamp on high up in Upper Manhattan. And I tell you, a cloud came down over my head at that time, alleging I was the most virulent racist.
Naturally.
Naturally, of course. The great old double standard.
Now, can't they have some kind of, just like they have for the candidates for presidency, debate into hiring someone for such a job?
Sir, to save everybody a lot of time, that's absurd. A debate. I want to vote. A debate. What an idiot. I don't know what little island the gentleman came from, but he's been in the sun too long. There's W.
More open phones, please.
What did you say?
More open phones, please.
Did you hear that down there in the office? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Diogenes, not Demosthenes, who carries the...
Diogenes, see? I hesitated, right?
You did. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Some people are a little confused as to the statement made by the caller concerning parking violations. Well, records of the Parking Violations Bureau show that Anthony J. Alvarado and Ellen Kirschbaum, his wife, owe $2,100 in unpaid parking tickets and fines on 2 automobiles they own now or have owned in the past. Since 1982, the records reveal Anthony Alvarado has failed to pay 32 parking tickets worth $1,250. Ms. Kirschbaum owes $850 in ticket charges and fines that date back to 1979. Benedict. Both Ms. Kirschbaum and Mr. Alvarado have been certified as scofflaws, a regular procedure for people who fail to pay 3 ticket summonses or more. Scofflaws are prevented from re-registering their vehicles until they pay their summonses and fines. I guess we'll find out what Mr. Alvarado has been doing to skirt that slight impedimentia. It's the Anthony Alvarado Show on WMCA. Bob Grant, your host with the most.
23 years old. I took the New York City police test. Italian, Irish background. I scored a 93. But because I'm not the minority that they want to hire, I'm way down on the bottom of the list. I'm sick, Bob, and my father is a policeman. My grandfather was a policeman for 40 years. This is what our city's coming to.
Well, I can't offer you any solace other than to say I warned people this was going to happen years and years ago, and it's right on schedule.
Yeah.
Right on schedule. And this is not, this is not the end. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Maybe the answer is we all better leave the city. We all better go somewhere.
It's not just the city, my dear. It's the whole cotton-picking country. All right. Thank you for the call. Yes, sir.
Oh, yes. Your comment on Gary Hart and what makes him tick and why he suddenly mushroomed up. It's very simple. People are made the number one priority the question of survival. And Gary Hart has been most clear and lucid in explaining that if he were president, he would do everything possible to prevent any kind of an atomic war, as against Mr. Reagan, who is perceived as...
Well, right now he's running against Walter Mondale.
What is that?
Right now, Gary Hart is running against Walter Mondale.
I know, but he's appealing to the people on the basis, on the thing which is most important for them, and that's the reason they hurry to vote for Gary Hart. Hart is the one to run against Reagan. He's younger, he's more vigorous, he explains things...
In other words, what you're really saying is that you think Gary Hart would have a better chance of defeating President Reagan than George McGovern or Walter Mondale or John Glenn or Jesse Jackson or...
Press that issue of stopping the atomic war. Everybody...
What atomic war? You say stop atomic war. What atomic war? Is there an atomic war going on somewhere?
No, but there's an atomic war facing us, and anybody who doesn't recognize that doesn't make that the number one.
I see, and Gary Hart said he recognizes it, and all the other candidates don't recognize it.
He recognizes it clearer and better.
In what way did he demonstrate to you that he recognizes it clearer and better?
Because he said that if he were elected, he would immediately establish a freeze on all nuclear testing immediately as soon as he's president, and he would do a considerable number of other things to guarantee that the human race continues to exist.
I see, and everybody else is not guaranteeing. Hey, listen, let me tell you something, my naive friend. Would you say he's going to guarantee it? Nobody can guarantee that there won't be any war. Nobody can guarantee it.
The most powerful man in the world, and what he does counts a great deal.
Uh-huh.
And that's
Well, let me tell you something. I think that you probably are sincere, but, gee, you're dumb.
But I just get a kick out of people when they love Mondale for his compassion. This is one of his watchwords, compassion. I'm going to be a compassionate president. Reminds me of the old story of the man who says he's going to come to my house to do me some good. Well, I'm going to bar the door and arm myself, protect myself, because he's certainly not going to do me a hell of a lot of good. And people shouldn't fall for this compassion watchword. I think it's very dangerous because it's really compassion with my money. He's going to take my money and give it to somebody else. And it's a classic buzzword of the people who would practice the art of redistribution in this country.
Both of them tripped him up when he said that he did not say that Cuba was not a totalitarian state. And yet the record in the interview with the Washington Post shows that he did say it was not a totalitarian state. And then he was asked, do you know the difference between a totalitarian state and an authoritarian state? And he said, I don't know. In other words, Gary Hart, for whatever reason, seems to have the frailty of fudging on the truth. I'm delighted to hear that news about the Yankees. Being a Yankee hater, of course. You know, life has become so difficult, so narrow, so fecund. No, not fecund, just the opposite. So jejune. Jejune, J-E-J-U-N-E. That one must search for little tidbits of pleasure in the most puerile places. And what could be more puerile than reacting to the outcome of an athletic event? Oh, dear. Anyway, at the other end, Jane Wales is Executive Director, Positions for Social Responsibility. I understand.
Oh, Dr. Chazoff holds two political positions as well as a very high position in the medical establishment of the...
Would be confused. He's not able to operate as a private citizen, as you are.
He is not the exact counterpart to me. Certainly not.
There is no exact counterpart to you in the Soviet Union, is there?
I don't know how to respond to that.
Well, the fact of the matter is that there isn't, because in the Soviet Union you either do what the government says or you don't do it, right?
Well, I can't speak for the...
Well, I can. I've been there, and I know. And people who may be very idealistic would like to think that the only difference between the United States and the Soviet Union is they speak Russian and we speak a form of English.
We also noted it in the press that we saw there, on the television news that we would watch, or in Pravda that we read, and other publications. Concern about nuclear war was a common theme. Soviets seem, if possible, more frightened of the possibility of nuclear war than even Americans. And in fact, Dr. Chazoff was the member of the Supreme Soviet who introduced the freeze resolution, their freeze resolution. I guess it was a little over a year ago. Each individual participant paid his or her own way.
So you got nothing from the Soviet government?
Well, we had many dinners.
Well, then I stand by that statement. You got nothing from the Soviet government, because that's one thing you don't go to Russia for is the food, that's for sure. And that's Jane Wales. Ms. Wales is her title, Executive Director of Physicians for Social Responsibility. Among 8 participants, just returned from the Soviet Union, where Dr. Chazov, who's in charge of the Soviet government's policy for prevention of nuclear war, which of course is a big joke, invited her. I could say a whole lot about it, but I don't have time. Apparently, somewhere in the confines of Manhattan Island, an individual formerly known as Leroy Jones, now known as Ajita Bacala of the infamous Kawaida Towers. Mr. Bacala said, and I quote, "We've got a president who wants to kill 10 trillion people." And Gary Hart and Walter Mondale think they're better than the president because they only want to kill 7 trillion people. Now, Bacala made that statement and other outrageous, scurrilous, libelous statements as well in introducing Jesse Jackson. And Mr. Brookhiser wants to point out that we have a double standard. Because if it were a spokesman for any other candidate, that candidacy would have ended immediately. But Jesse Jackson gets a free ride.
Do you listen to some of those people on the radio outside of the city, down south, and what have you? I don't know what you think.
I'm not responsible for what anybody else says, only for what I say myself.
It doesn't take guts for white people on the radio to call blacks niggers and anything.
Well, why did you use that word?
Well, because...
why did you use that word?
Well, because it's...
I'll tell you why. Because in your heart, that's the way you think of yourself. Sure do, pal. I'm sorry for you. At 4:30 I am. I'm sorry for him.
I talked to Congresswoman Geraldine Ferraro on another show.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a nationwide show, and she was on there for a half hour just tearing at the president and quoting Mario Cuomo as the next, future of the party, and I really had to call. So I was fortunate enough to get in, and I cornered her. And I said, "Ms. Ferraro, why is it that every time that you're together with or apart from Pat Schroeder, Bella Abzug, Judy Goldsmith, Betty Friedan, Gloria Steinem, you people run a hatchet job all over President Reagan. Continually, you never give the man credit for anything. If he's so bad, how come a lot of the exit polls out of the New York primary showed people voting for Mondale said they would probably switch to Reagan and they were just exercising their vote? Well, she hit the roof, Bob. That was point one.
What do you mean when you say she hit the roof? Was she able to refute that?
No, she wasn't. She went into a tirade about how terrible he is in his foreign policy.
Well, let me say this about Geraldine Ferraro. She is one of the few politicians who was not even gracious back in January of 1981 when the new administration took office. Much to the credit of many Democrats, they saluted the president, they spoke with goodwill, they wished him good luck, and they were gracious losers. But Geraldine Ferraro, along with a few other people like Steve Solars, were never gracious losers. They weren't gracious for one moment. As a matter of fact, I think of all the people I heard back in January of 81, Geraldine Ferraro was the poorest loser of the bunch.
And what do you think the potential of an Italian-American someday may be running for the president? And she said to me, "Who do you have in mind?" She probably thought I was going to say who she thought. I said, "I think Alvarado would make a great president." She went haywire. She went haywire about it. The woman is off the wall. I think when she's taken outside of the media or taken outside of her little turf...
Well, there are certain candidates. I suppose a lot of ethnic groups do this, but I do happen to know of certain Italo-American candidates, politicians, who, when the guy is of their party, like in this case, it is Geraldine Ferraro, who hates Republicans with an obsessive quality that goes beyond the political reality. Anyway, if she's talking about a Republican, then she downplays ethnic voting. But if he were a Democrat, she'd appeal to the pride.
She told me...
Yeah, goes up
To the International Olympic Committee Executive Board, Roosevelt opened up his questioning by saying, "Everyone in the world knows a Radio Free Europe and so ridiculous and made me so angry. The day that the United States of America needs a radio station to gather intelligence will be quite a sad day in our country. And of course, when somebody makes a statement that way, that it's run by our intelligence unit, it plays right into the hands of our adversaries, and we never had a chance from there. And how any American citizen could make not only an incorrect, irresponsible statement like that and call himself an American, I don't know. But the Russians are complaining of that, too. I thought they should have added that they were awarding Roosevelt with the Order of Lenin in Lenin Square or something.
Let me ask you, and this could open up another can here, but what do you suppose inspired a pinhead like Julian Roosevelt to make that statement?
I don't know.
You think he was reading something, some track published?
I don't have the foggiest idea. He has, over the years, opposed the United States Olympic Committee in many of our major initiatives, most recently in attempting to make honesty out of the sham called amateurism, where I have stated on many occasions that if we can't have honest amateur competition in the Olympic Games, open them up to open competition, because I don't like our young men and our young women encouraged to cheat. It's morally wrong. He opposes that. And Samaranch, the president of the IOC, says, I get letters from the International Olympic Committee from Roosevelt strongly arguing against the United States Olympic Committee's position. And this is, the enemies use this, to say, see, the United States doesn't have a firm position. So everybody's got a convenient argument. And so, as I say, it's just one of many. He didn't support us on Jim Thorpe getting his medal back, but he was right up front to make the speech the day we presented the medals to the Thorpe family in Los Angeles. It just goes on. And so we indeed are writing a letter disassociating ourselves from Julian Roosevelt. And so be it. And if that disturbs the Soviet Union, it's none of their business. That's between the IOC and the USOC, of which I head. Thank you.
That's William Simon, ladies and gentlemen, on our WMCA Newsmaker Line. He's the president of the U.S. Olympic Committee, and he doesn't need any interpreter at all. I don't have to tell you what he said. He did it so well. The fact of the matter is, we know, without any shadow of a doubt, that left-wing revolutions do not find themselves contained to any one nation. That it is the dynamics of a left-wing revolution as part of a worldwide revolution to spread Marxism to every spot on the globe. And let's go back to just a few years ago when dictator Somoza was overthrown in Nicaragua. There were very few people who were sorry that Nicaragua had overthrown Somoza. Somoza was not particularly a great guy, but he was not an enemy of the United States, certainly. He meant no harm to this country, and he was not trying to export his beliefs to neighboring nations like El Salvador or Honduras. In other words, he represented absolutely no threat to the hemisphere. He was overthrown, and many citizens who participated in overthrowing Somoza believed that they were going to trade in this right-wing dictator for democracy. It turned out that they were deceived. They were betrayed. Because people like Daniel Ortega, people like that, had betrayed the revolution so that it was not a democratic revolution, but a revolution installing a communist-type government. And as you know, communism does not believe in democracy. There's nowhere on the face of the earth where a communist government has come into power and allowed free and open elections. There's no such thing. You won't find it anywhere on the face of this earth. That, more than anything else, indicts the communists for what they are: enemies of freedom, hypocrites, and dangerous to the security of the free world. Somebody calls it, gee, Yonkers is really really going to hell in a handbasket. The school system may have to shut down. They're going to put a 15% tax surcharge. They can't pay their bills. They're fiscally broke. And we never hear from a Goombata. It's that last item that disturbs me most.
And number 3, I think the senators ought to get glasses to cure their myopia. Don't they understand that these gangsters who run the Kremlin, I know that they can't beat us in a nuclear war yet. So they're going around the world bit by bit. And these people use any type of activity, be it covert, overt, criminal activity, anything they can do to get us where it hurts the most. And we have to fight fire with fire. You know, this is not Vietnam. This is our own backyard. After they get Nicaragua and El Salvador, they're going to go into Mexico. And, you know, and you know all the ramifications of Mexico.
Well, you know, when you talk about that, I'm afraid Miguel de Madrid and all the rest of his stooges would welcome them. It's incredible, but here you find Mexico, for years and years, has been chumps for the communists, has been chumps for Castro. It makes no sense whatsoever.
I really am disgusted. I honestly feel sometimes one of the biggest allies the Soviets have is our own Congress and media. And I get a little upset with this moral indignation and outrage about, these are small minds, they're not meant to sink ships, they're just meant to tell them, stay out. I want to know, Bob, where has this outrage and indignation been as Soviet freighters come in brazenly unloading munitions and armaments that are funneled into the Marxist rebel pipeline? Where has the outrage been when they found that $1.5 billion cocaine cache in Colombia being guarded by Cubans that is coming into America to poison Americans, create crime, and the money goes back to finance the revolution? They read it like the Dow Jones, but when our president tries to show a little courage, he's held up to some special ground rules and it's unbelievable. If the president was wrong, then I'm glad he was wrong, at least trying to prevent and send a message to the Soviets. We don't appreciate you financing and funneling in armaments. I think that pig sub Castro is behind a lot of the cocaine traffic in this country. He's financing that revolution down there. And as these phonies in the media and the Congress point at President Reagan, I just want that bony finger of indignation to point at the Soviet Union and Fidel Castro. And I believe this. And if these people don't wake up, they're going to sell this country out in an attempt to bring down President Reagan. And I can see him over there in the Kremlin just retching over this.
Well, Daniel Ortega, Nicaragua's defense minister, and a commie fink, reportedly met with his Soviet counterpart in Moscow. According to the Soviet news agency TASS, Ortega is seeking defense assistance from the Soviets. What else? What else would you expect from one of Fidel's Ogumbatas, huh? By the way, speaking of Ogumbata from Yonkers, Charlie, you're not disqualified. You are eligible to call. Who the heck told Ogumbata that he was persona non grata? Doggone, you know, he believes that. He believes it. And from Long Island, on the Long Island line, you know, like the Marines, they say the few, the proud, the Marines, the few, the proud, the WMCA Bob Grant callers. Hello. What I'm going to do, because I know that people really, the truth of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, for whatever reason, the truth of the matter is very few individuals want to call and talk about anything of substance, talk about anything that has to do with issues or with ideas or with opinions. But they will call like there's no tomorrow if you tell them you're going to tell them something about them, something about their future. So if you would like to get some readings of my vibes for whatever they're worth, by all means, feel free to do so. So feel free to do that. I must accept the realities of the situation. Where is it written that she has to be married? Hey, look, you're talking to a guy that really should never have gotten married. I was in the 50s generation. We all got married because we thought
Right.
We thought it was our duty, right?
That was the way things were, let's face it.
We thought it was our duty, like there was a law. It was written, said, on this date, Elvira Shagnasty will get married. On this date, Bob Grant will get married. You know, like it's a cotton-picking law.
I know, but you see, it's also bringing Italian like you. It's the bringing up of me, and...
Yeah, we're victims of Caponitis. I want to commend the New York Post for saying Senator Moynihan protests too much. I think they're right when he says he is an old hand in the gray goings-on of intelligence. There's been a prominent member of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence since he was first elected back in 1976. As vice chairman of the committee since 1981 and very often as acting chairman in Senator Goldwater's many absences, he's always known when a guarded statement by CIA officials needed to be probed by further confidential questioning. His highly publicized resignation as committee vice chairman, which was, by the way, filmed in his office last Friday but broadcast on the network on Sunday, raises a number of questions. Why did Moynihan keep CIA Director William Casey and Deputy Director Jack McMahon waiting in an antechamber while he made his resignation statement to the television cameras? Further, when he then received Casey and McMahon to review the briefings, why did he not tell them that he had just made his statement resigning as the committee's vice chairman? And if Moynihan's resignation was fit to be given to a TV camera crew, would it not have been common decency to say nothing of politeness to have informed Casey at the same time? Why did his New York constituents have to wait 2 days, courtesy of a TV program, to learn of their senator's resignation when he could have made it known last Friday? And if Moynihan is as offended as he makes out, why did he not resign immediately when he felt he had been inadequately informed by the CIA? Nor is his righteous indignation shared unanimously by members of his own committee, even members of his own party. Senator Benson, another Democrat, says there was precise reference to the mining operations in the CIA briefings. Biden, another Democrat, says they do not feel that the briefings were that inadequate. Pat Leahy, a Democrat of Vermont, says, I was informed. I asked specific questions about the mining. I felt that I was adequately briefed, and they were forthcoming. I voted against covert action partly because of that. These were senators who voted one way the week before and a different way the following week, who knew about the mining in both instances and I think were influenced solely by the public opinion. That's wrong. That's not a good way for legislative action. As another senator, Malcolm Wallop, says, the committee has been fully informed on all the activities, including that one, and to claim otherwise is disingenuous. Pat Moynihan, shame on you. Shame, shame, shame. And you haven't fooled all of us, Senator. Not all of us. If you want, you don't have to. If you want, it's not mandatory. Unless you're in Westchester County, then it's mandatory, 237 WMCA. By the way, whatever happened to Padnavali or Goombata? Whatever happened? Want to hear Charlie call? Okay, Charlie, you can talk to Nicole if you call. Anyway, favorite temperature. You know, there are those people, and not too much publicity has been focused in this area, but there are those people, call them neo-isolationists, call them any name you wish. Certain people, particularly in the Democratic Party, a wing of the Democratic Party, wants the United States to adopt a virtual isolationist posture. I wish we could. Be okay with me. But the fact of the matter is we can't. And highlights of an interview which should have been publicized but wasn't, an interview with no less a personage than that scoundrel, that crafty, clever, scoundrel, President Hafez al-Assad of Syria, who has emerged as the leading power broker in the Middle East. Mr. President, the question to Assad went, is there a role for the U.S. to play in the Middle East? If so, what should that role be? Listen to this answer. Certainly there's a role for the U.S. to play in the area. There's also one for the Soviet Union, of course. I know what that role is, Assad, you skunk. They give you $3 billion worth of their equipment, military equipment. Then Assad goes on to say, no reasonable man can ignore the roles of these two superpowers. All that we wish is to see the U.S. play its role in a fair, unbiased, and responsible way in accordance with its responsibilities as a superpower. Translated, that means let Israel go down the tubes. We say this because we always perceive a continued and complete bias by the U.S. toward Israel, you see. This bias, from our point of view, contradicts the interests of American citizens and does not serve the cause of peace. Part of what Assad has to say. And a couple of years ago, if I had read some of those quotations, the phones would be ringing off the hook. But maybe Assad knows something, because the community, at least the one-time activist calling community to this broadcast, has become very docile. This is the formerly famous Bob Grant on WMCA. Well, I appreciate that. As a matter of fact, there's nothing I like better than getting a call talking about my favorite subject and agreeing with me on how great I am. Hi. On WMCA. Hey, there goes the Bob Grant audience. You just heard her. Well, it was another good day on the street. That means Wall Street. Spurred by a slowing of... Get a load of... This is why I will never buy a stock again. Why I quit buying stocks 12 years ago. Listen to this. Try to follow this logic, if you will. Okay? It was another good day on the street, spurred by a slowing of the economy that analysts believe could cool some of the upward pressure on interest rates. In other words, it is 1984, when good news is bad and bad news is good. Former Atlantic City Mayor Michael Matthews, whom authorities say has confessed to selling his political influence to an organized crime family in return for payoffs, was permitted to leave prison today with the condition that he takes steps to ensure his safety. Now, that's an interesting story. They say, all right, you pleaded guilty, eh? We'll let you leave prison, but make sure nothing happens to you. Well, I don't know. Which family was it? That's what I want to know. Which family was it? Maybe the Hugo Matsututuguanda family? If so, I've got influence there. Ruriash para concierge. Was it Hugo Matsututuguanda? Well, listen, I want to show you. I want to take on the mob right here, right now. Hey, Matsututuguanda, you don't scare me. There. Libyan soldiers have surrounded the British embassy in Tripoli. That in retaliation. By the way, I went to the Libyan embassy when I was in Britain in March of 1982, and they kicked me out. Kicked me out so fast, good thing they didn't shoot me. If they had known who I was, they would have shot me. Anyway, Libyan soldiers have surrounded the British embassy in Tripoli, that in retaliation for the surrounding of the Libyan embassy in London by British sharpshooters. A gunman inside had opened fire at a demonstration outside the embassy earlier today, killing a policewoman and wounding 11 others. What do you expect from a bunch of crackpots who follow that master of all crackpots, Muammar Gaddafi? Get Gaddafi! The U.S. will use all legal means available to fight terrorism, but spokesman Larry Speaks isn't saying much about a tough new anti-terrorist directive the president has reportedly signed. Tomorrow, he sided with disappearing ink, just in case. Will you?
Hello, Bob.
Sir.
Yes, you're in great form today. This is Marco from Manhattan.
Well, that's because I'm doing some open phones, and I love to do open phones. Every now and then I sneak it through.
Very good. It's Roberto D'Aubuisson. Wanted to come to this country on some kind of a technicality under the old Walter...
Yeah, they wouldn't let him in.
Immigration Act, right. They didn't let him in. And there's a man who represents at least some hope to some stability in that country, in El Salvador. Really, you know? And
yeah, but listen, mark my words. The the lefties, the ultra-liberals, the bleeding hearts, the scaredy cats, the cowards, the skunks, they will prevail. They will prevail, and we will have a cluster of little Cubas, as Max Lerner says, throughout Central America. It's just going to be El Salvador will go down the drain. Nicaragua is already lost.
As you say, Bob, God bless this current president, but what about, F-88? I mean, what's going to happen?
Well, we don't even know if he's going to make it in 84. Because the media is mounting a big campaign.
God, you think there's a chance that he won't?
Yes, I do. I think there's a chance he'll get defeated.
Oh, God help us. Well, I'm going to buy more gold then, more Krugerrands.
All right, thanks for the... Okay.
Calling to accuse you of being directly responsible for everything that's going on with the Libyans. They chase American planes, they're threatening our warships, and now they're popping off at British citizens. Because when you were formerly famous, you had a sign-off that I think was certainly famous. And every day you said it, and it kept that maniac in his place. No sooner did you stop saying it than all this trouble started up.
You're right. You're right. Too bad I'm not famous anymore.
I think that if you start telling the people what to do again, that maybe he'll listen and calm down.
Maybe I'll get famous again.
Could be. Sir, may I make a comment?
Sure.
Could be done tomorrow morning.
All right. Listen, Mel, I like your style. Thank you very much.
Sir.
And Mel hung up too soon. I was going to say, get Gaddafi.
What's been going on in Lebanon? The Syrians have murdered 241 American Marines. The Libyan government, not isolated Libyans, but the Libyan government today, shot at peaceful protesters in London. And let's put it this way, I think the British are getting what they deserve. They should not have had any diplomatic relations with Libya. Take the Iran-Iraq war, Bob. I don't know which side we should be on, because both sides are reprehensible. The Iraqis have been using chemical warfare, and the Iranians use 12-year-old kids to test the mines. So far as I'm concerned, the Arab world is the only world that has made war holy. They have something that's called a jihad, and that's a holy war. So how can we possibly be sympathetic to the Arab countries? They're different. They don't behave like we do. They're a different brand. They're a different breed. Take Farrakhan. He calls himself the Nation of Islam. And it's just another example. Now, they have a campaign, Bob, so that America will stop aiding Israel. They don't talk about the American aid that's given to Egypt. We give an equal amount of aid to Egypt.
Support terrorism all over the world, and all of a sudden, if we do something wrong, like mine a harbor or something, which might have been stupid, but no matter what we do, you hear the liberal element in this country get up there and scream, we're doing something wrong. When they do something wrong, they forget about it. They forget about Afghanistan, they forget about, Croatia.
All of a sudden, the French are very brave. They're going to clear the mines for Nicaragua. They're going to clear the mines out of the
French
out of the ocean. Can you believe that?
I didn't even believe that, because I thought the French were starting to wake up. I don't believe that.
Does the heart good? For example, well, I won't read you the whole thing, but just this part. And furthermore, Bob, I'll never forget when you came back from a visit to Israel, either 1971 or 1972, you began signing off your program with, get Gaddafi. But you warned us time and time again that Gaddafi was a madman, a maniac, and that the sooner the world would get rid of him, the better. In view of what's happened at the British Embassy in London, I think what he really means is in view of what happened at the Libyan Embassy in London, and in view of what's happened to the British Embassy in Tripoli, I can only say once again, you were way ahead of the game. Maybe it's still not too late to, and he puts this in quote, get Gaddafi. Yeah. The Gaddafis of the world, the hit, are people who show, who demonstrate, who clearly serve notice on society, national and international, today are sworn enemies of a civilized, peaceful world. And yet, we don't take them seriously. We shrug them off. We hope they'll go away like a bad disease. And speaking of Gaddafi, we're going to try to make contact with that maniac. Or we're trying to get a hold of somebody there in the embassy in London. And I can only say to our dear British cousins, I'll sit back and be smug. To a certain extent, your chickens have come home to roost.
This would be a situation where where Jesse Jackson might want to volunteer his services to come in and intercede, and he's got the perfect technical advisor. He could take his buddy Farrakhan with him in a similar kind of situation.
I think Farrakhan and Gaddafi would get along just peachy keen.
I think so, too.
Each one might think he's looking in a mirror. And hello.
Hi, I'm Hymie from Manhattan.
Yeah, it's Hymie, calling from Hymie Town.
Hymie Town. Get Gaddafi. You know, you came out with that statement a lot of times. I was not intellectually aware of Gaddafi. And let me tell you something, you caught it right.
Britain and Libya remain at a standoff with British forces surrounding the Libyan embassy in London, and Libyan forces posted outside the British embassy in Tripoli. Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, interviewed on the Today Show, said the only way to end the siege is for the British forces to withdraw immediately. Isn't that interesting? No apology for the fact that one of his maniacs opened the window and fired with a machine gun, wounding 11 people and killing an innocent British policewoman. The switchboard operator and all the people who help out want to acknowledge all of your concern, your consideration, and your interest in the state of Goombata from Yonkers. The calls that have come in asking his whereabouts are legion, are touching, and also frustrating, because I don't know where he is, and I don't know why he's in another semi-retirement. He retires more than a heavyweight boxing champion. You're on WMCA. Hello. Operator.
Yes.
Operator, would you, are you the overseas operator?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to get the Libyan embassy in London, please. I have the number for you.
All right.
441-589-5235.
Thank you for calling AT&T, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
She's in the process of trying to place the call to the Libyan embassy in London. Phone's ringing. Something's ringing. Sounds like, Hello?
Hello?
Yes, hello. This is Bob Grant. Who's this on the other end?
Hello, yes, can I help you?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, who is this?
This is Libyan David Spiro here.
Well, this is Bob Grant. I'm here in New York. What's going on there? What are you doing right now? Hello?
No.
What are you doing right now?
You know, the action is here. It's in another building.
Is this really the Libyan embassy?
Yeah, this is the visa section here.
I see.
Yes, another building is not here. It's far from here.
You're live on WMCA, and I'm talking on a radio station in New York City, and we're curious about what's going on. We want to get the real story from you.
Yeah, I give you another number.
All right.
There.
Okay. 930.
6041.
Okay, I think we got that. And who are you, sir?
Telephone.
Are you a Libyan citizen?
Yes, I am.
You are. Okay. Are you feeling nervous about what's going on?
Sorry?
Are you nervous about what is going on?
I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Sorry. Okay.
All right, okay. Thank you.
Right.
All right. Well, there's a Libyan citizen we just talked to, and he gave us the number And we'll try that number. I don't know how we got him. Who is he? Anyway, he answered the phone in the Libyan embassy. Hold the phone. Stop the presses. He handled it. We got him. We got the Libyan embassy. And now we're going to place our call. We have that number. We're going to try. And we're going to make that attempt right now. Operator, are you the overseas operator?
Yes, I am.
All right. Would you try 930-6041, please, in London?
Thank you, please hold.
Thank you.
And what happened when you dialed this directly? Do you realize your phone is equipped to dial direct? It would be cheaper?
It would be cheaper.
Yes, it would.
Well, that's okay, dear. We're on the air, and I think it would be... the lady in the booth says for you to dial it. I'm not going to argue with her.
Thank you, please hold.
Not at all.
In the picture, you would dial 01441 and then the number. It would go through faster.
All right.
Thanks for calling.
Okay. I hope the front office heard that.
Ring it.
Okay, thank you. 044 then -1 the call.
Hello.
Hello.
Are you?
Yeah, this is Bob Grant. I'm here in New York. Who's this, please? Hello, is this the Libyan embassy?
Yes.
It is? Are you right there in St. James Court in London? St. James Square?
I can't hear you.
I can hear you just peachy, just fine.
But for me, I can't.
What's going on there right now? What's happening?
Concerning what?
Who's got the machine gun?
I don't know.
You're not the guy that shot the machine gun out the window, are you? Hello? Is Mr. Gaddafi there? Are you taping me? Oh, they hung up. How do you like that? They hung up? I asked him if he was the guy that shot the machine gun out the window, and he hung up. Can you believe that? A Libyan embassy official hung up on me? If he had known who he was talking to, he would have done more than hung up on me. While we're trying to make contact elsewhere, I'm going to take a call, because I like taking calls. It's good for the ego. WMCA, Bob Grant, hello. Hello. Bavanavli. You know, people, they get on the line, they wait. And then when you say hello, why, they're not there. Wasn't that exciting, though? We got the Libyan embassy. And as soon as I asked him if he was the guy that shot the machine gun out the window, he hung up. Or did he hang up when I asked for Mr. Gaddafi? You were listening. Tell me, what did it sound like to you out there? You don't have to telephone from your automobile. You do not have to have a phone in your automobile, by the way, to call. You can call from home. You can use a push-button phone. You can use a dial phone. You can use a phone in the bedroom, a phone in the bathroom, a phone in the living room, a phone in the kitchen. You can use a phone in the hallway. You can use a borrowed phone, a stolen phone. I'll direct or get the operator to make it. Whatever you want to do, you can call. Did you know that? No means test given, by the way. No third degree. I want to bring back the good old days when all I do is say, we're taking phone calls in a place that go bananas. So I think I'm going to get more involved with the audience since it's such a nice, small, intimate group.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. WMCA, let's get an operator now in Libya and try to call person to person to Gaddafi. That's what we're going to try to do. Why not? Hello, Colonel Gaddafi. And you're on WMCA operator. Hello?
May I help you?
Yes, is this the overseas operator?
This is the outside operator. May I help you?
Yes, you certainly may. I'd like to call Tripoli, Libya, please. Tripoli, Libya. I'd like to place a person-to-person call to Muammar Gaddafi.
One moment, please.
Yes. All right. Muammar Gaddafi. What a creep. I'm in the mood for... I'm waiting here, vamping. It's 19 minutes past 5 on WMCA. Tonight, mostly cloudy and not so mild. Chance of some shower activity and thunderstorms. Tomorrow, variable cloudiness, and they are mild. Here we are on WMCA, sitting here in my Midtown Manhattan studio, and the operator hung up on herself. What happened to the operator? We lost her. Now, just a moment. Nikki will breathlessly say, pick up 67, pick up 67. Yeah, we'll try it again. What the heck? Hello? Overseas operator.
To where, sir?
Hello?
Yeah, overseas to where?
Overseas to Tripoli, Libya.
Okay, may I have the number?
I don't have the number, operator. I want to call a gentleman. Well, he's not a gentleman.
You need information for Tripoli?
Give me information for Tripoli, yes.
Here, one moment.
We're getting Tripoli information. Tripoli. Beep. Too bad Mussolini had to lose that country. It's never been the same since. And, let's see. Gaddafi's probably in a tent right now, eating falafel under the covers. On WMCA, I'm looking at 21 minutes past 5. On WMCA. Anybody out there? Anybody out there? Well, I don't know. You know, this is going to drive me to drink. Salud, l'chaim, and prosit. Ooh, that's smart. Oh. Is it against the FCC regulations to do that on the air? There are no more FCC regulations. I know it. How come people around here don't know it? Excuse me. Hello? What happened? We're supposed to get the information operator in Libya, Tripoli.
All right, we're trying.
Okay.
Sorry, your international call.
One moment.
What's the matter? What's the matter, operator?
One moment.
All right. One moment, please. One moment, please. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the mystery voice backstage. Bob Grant is seated in WMCA Studio C in Midtown Manhattan. He's actually trying to get through to Muammar Gaddafi in Tripoli, Libya. Little does he know that at the sound of the... Here we go.
We're sorry. Your international call cannot be completed.
All right. I wonder what that gentleman on recording, I wonder why he... I wonder why. What's going on? Can you give me an operator in Libya, operator?
I'm trying to reach her.
Oh, I see. She's trying to reach her. That's what I thought, but I asked anyway.
The line you called is busy. Please call later.
What did he say, operator?
Information is busy. Please call later.
He did. All right. I'll tell you what. Let me give you a number then. In that case, Tripoli, Libya number, operator. Are you there?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to try this number. 37107. 37107. In Tripoli, Libya. All right. Ouch. What is that?
Ringing?
That's a ring, okay.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of Gaddafi? Maybe Gaddafi told him, don't answer that phone, it'll be Bob Grant. We're calling Tripoli, Libya, 3701, 370701. 37107. Okay. Well, we tried. We did get through to the Libyan embassy. Let it be known. We did get through to the Libyan embassy. And as soon as I asked the guy, are you the fellow that shot the machine gun outside the window? They hung up.
It's John. I'm from Brooklyn.
Yes, John.
I would like to ask you a question, John. Just what is it you're trying to accomplish by telephoning these embassies?
trying to accomplish
Yeah, what's
a little entertainment, a little amusement,
a little amusement?
a little shtickler.
How do you think the people in England would feel if they heard something like this with one of their policemen that were killed?
What about, hey, stupid, what has this got to do with that?
Stupid for. Don't you know how to speak without using names and getting out of line?
I only described you, that's all. I didn't call your name.
Might be me.
You know, did you ever hear this word?
Wait.
Are you sitting down for this? Cavone.
No,
Did you ever hear the word cavone?
Yeah, sure I heard of it. I also would like to know what you're trying to accomplish.
I'm trying to accomplish nothing, pal.
Well, that's exactly what you're doing. Nothing. You are not entertaining. You're not
Well, then why are you listening, then? If it's not entertaining, if it's not informative, why are you listening?
Just came in and my darling wife, your darling friend, thinks you're the greatest thing. But I said here...
And that's why you don't like me. You're jealous.
You're crazy.
You're jealous because your wife thinks more of me than she does of you.
You didn't say that. You've got a very high ego level, my friend.
Oh, yeah. It isn't that I have such a high ego. Oh, this guy here. What do you do for a living, sir?
I beg your pardon?
What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm in the insurance business.
Oh, no wonder you're so bitter.
Bitter? About what?
About your station in life.
Is that right? My station in life is that I spent 34 years with them, and I am now comfortably retired.
You're retired?
Yeah, I don't know what you mean by station in life.
Wait a minute. Hold it. How old are you?
I am exactly 60 years old last February.
I see. And you're retired?
Yeah.
Well, what do you do in your retirement outside of listen to me and get at you at me?
Well, I certainly don't listen to you.
Well, then how would you know what I've been doing if you weren't listening to me?
Dinner table that my wife has you tuned into.
Yeah, well, I ask you why you're so upset about this.
I am not upset. I am trying to understand.
You're trying to understand. I tried to call the Libyan embassy to find out what those groups are doing over there.
You asked
What's so terrible about that?
whoever supposedly answered in that Libyan embassy if Gaddafi is there. You really expect Gaddafi to be in England at this?
Of course not.
Then why ask us?
I know where Gaddafi is.
Yeah, we all know.
As a matter of fact, I know more about Gaddafi than most people. I've been aware of Gaddafi long before people even knew how to pronounce his name. Come on, I don't understand this guy here.
Oh, what the?
Put your wife on the line, will you?
Put my wife on the line?
Yeah.
Sure,
And I'm belligerent because he is demeaning the fact that I'm trying to get a hold of the Libyan embassy.
Well, you seem to be making a joke of it, and it's a real tragedy.
A joke?
Right.
Well, it is a joke. It's a joke that we've let Gaddafi go this far. That's what the joke is.
But
And the British have criticized us for the way we've handled Gaddafi. The British were critical of us when we closed down their embassy and kicked them out in 1981. Now their chickens are coming home to roost, for heaven's sake.
only more and more so that you get really silly about things.
Well, you might be right about the silly. You might be right about the silly. To a certain extent, John, I get silly in self-defense. In other words, I get frustrated because I really, at heart, want to talk about serious issues the way I want to talk about them. And I want to do the program day in and day out the way I feel it in my heart. But I can't, so I get silly. You understand? Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi says the British, not the Libyans, were responsible for the death of a London policewoman and the wounding of 11 demonstrators on Tuesday. Gaddafi told NBC Today that the British provoked the shooting from within the embassy by attacking it. British authorities, witnesses, and videotapes contradict that absurd claim.
Because I wanted to tell you that was really a fantastic program today. I was about to admonish your sponsors or your program directors for putting you on with guests who show you how to floss your teeth or something.
A little article in the Post, very interesting today, reference to that character Moynihan. As you know, the senators in the states usually recommend to the president when there's a federal judgeship open. Moynihan recommended there's a judgeship open in the Southern District. He recommended a William Hellerstein. And normally these things are routinely approved, but they have a background investigation. When they started to investigate, looked into Mr. Hellerstein's background, he was a member of the American Civil Liberties Union, which is, of course, great. They found some of the articles he had written. The articles Hellerstein has written include one on how to sue prison officials on behalf of inmates, and another calling misdemeanor courts an abomination. And it goes on this article. It's on page 6 of the Post in today's Post. Needless to say, the White House has indicated that Mr. Hellerstein is not going to be appointed a federal judge in the Southern District of New York. And that the article goes on to say he tried to slip one over on Reagan.
Point Hellerstein to the judgeship, and I know it's a cliche that's been used many times, is like the proverbial fox guarding the
absolutely
the chicken coop. Yeah.
When you say Jackson, you mean Reverend Liar Jackson?
Reverend what?
Liar Jackson?
No, I mean Reverend Unable to Remember Jackson.
Oh, I see.
Unable to remember.
Thanks.
Let's see. Otherwise, what else is new? Did you see those smiling galoots? Did you see them cavelling? Who am I talking about? I'm talking about 100 mutants. 100 mutations who come under some subspecies of semi-human being. 100 youths in an IND robbery rampage. A rampaging gang of 100 youths sweeping through an IND subway train. Beating, robbing passengers. The savage thugs surged through the southbound F train, punching and ripping off riders and then kicking them off. According to the Transit Authority, cops, after a wild 3-station reign of terror, an army of police boarded the train, nabbed 22 of the rat pack. All were being held on charges of inciting to riot. Some also were expected to be charged with robbery after complaints are signed by up to a dozen passengers. But there's a photo, and the caption says, "These grinning youths seem to think the whole thing's a joke as they're taken into custody after a savage crime spree on a southbound F train early this morning." Well, it is a joke. But the joke is not on them. The joke is on us. Because these mutants have announced a long time ago, they have served notice that they are enemies of society, that they are predators, that they have only contempt for civilization. And they know full well that they'll get booked, fingerprinted, and then back out again to do whatever they want to do, for as long as they want to do it. And then another booking, and then again, and again, and again. 343 WMCA is our... From, I think if you're from Naples, you say Moynihan.
Well, I'm from Naples.
So you say, see, the number you don't dialect, the Goombata. From Moynihan.
All right. Okay, Bob.
Thank you.
I'll do one more thing.
What?
I'll call you again next week.
Atta boy.
Okay?
Okay, don't eat too many vignol.
Okay.
Okay, bye. It all started. Bignul, I have a soft spot in my heart for Bignul because when I first heard from Goombata from Yonkers, we were doing the program from the studios at 415 Madison Avenue. It was late fall, early, just somewhere getting close. I don't know what date it was. September, October, 1970 on WMCA. And I said, because we had a little lull and because nobody knew we were here yet, I said, does anybody remember when they used to put a vignule in meatballs? And Goombata called because we had touched a very sensitive spot in his heart.
Bob, this is Hymie from Hymie Town.
You know, you're a great man. I might say you're wickedly great.
I am...
You're a great man, but you're a wicked man, but you're wickedly great. How do you like that? I beg your pardon. Hymie, you have a very good sense of humor. I thank you for the call. And give my regards to Louis Farrakhan, will you? Tell him I said he's wickedly great. The ideal situation, as I see it, is what is going on right now. Hymie may have gone too far.
Right.
And you're calling to say that he did.
Yeah, I think a little.
And you're explaining why. You see, that's the idea. I think that, in retrospect, even though it was only a few minutes ago,
right.
I think perhaps he did. But let me let me plead guilty with an explanation.
Uh-huh.
Number one, to be dead honest with you, I have no other calls on the line. I got to tell you that right now, because people just, they get into a groove, you know, and they figure, well, he's going to be interviewing these guests, and I don't have to call, and they're not ready to call.
Actually, Rockland County, but I used your Westchester line to unclog your phone.
Thank you. You unplugged it. I appreciate that. And the reason it's unplugged is it...
Was it some kind of ploy to get me to call?
It was a ploy. It was a cheap, dirty ploy.
I figured as much.
And, you know, it's kind of like gallows humor. You know, here I'm going down the tubes, but trying to making jokes as I go down. But down.
Yes, it would.
So I have... it's pathetic. If I was saying... Ken Gartner's here, he's going to be reading your horoscope, or Keith Sherwood is going to be doing vibes, or I'm going to be doing vibes, the phone will be ringing off the hook, because people don't want the real life.
Yeah, they want fantasy.
They want fantasy. Tell me what I'm going to be when I grow up.
That's right.
Yeah.
I have to tell you about one criticism. I don't like when you do that. Those things, I have to turn you off.
You don't like when I do what?
The horoscopes and, you know, the vibes and everything. You're probably very good at it, but I just get bored after the...
I don't blame you.
I get bored after the first two, and I turn you off. I mean, nothing against you. I just don't want to listen to these people. All these people, mostly, it seems to be mostly women that call. Am I correct?
Yes, of course.
And
because every woman in her heart of hearts wants to be told that Prince Charming is going to sweep her off her feet any day now.
That's right, and that's what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that freedom of speech is something that is still a very delicate item. In other words, if I were to say what I'd really like to say, as opposed to what I say to survive, are two different things.
I see Vice President Bush had to push those two jellyfish candidates to say something about Hymie and about Jackson, and they didn't say anything before then. And as a matter of fact, Jackson he denied it on television before.
I think it's worse from Mondale and Hart and all the other Democrats, because they're so afraid of the blacks that they won't dare criticize the guy. That's what I think. That's what bothers me more than that the guy said it, because the fact that the guy said it didn't surprise me one bit. I mean, here you have a guy who's a lover of Yasser Arafat. What would you expect him to say?
It's true.
Grant, I understand that Farrakhan said that if Jackson does not get the support from whites, Farrakhan will organize a black Muslim march on Washington to petition for a separate state. And I would wholeheartedly support that. I think that Alcatraz Island would be an excellent site, and I think that the Congress should cede that island over to Farrakhan, and Jackson would make an ideal president. Of course, we can seal that area and don't have to allow people to come back and forth like we do from Canada. I don't know why there is not widespread support for a separate state for him and anyone else that wants to join him.
Well, that's absurd. We're not going to have any separate states. We're 50 states, and
Alcatraz Island.
You know, we'll either live together or we'll die together. But we're 50 states, and that's it. And we don't have to give in to. We don't have to give in to bullies. Okay, thank you very much. We don't have to. We probably will. We have in the past, but we don't have to. The Pentagon says Soviet forces have opened a major offensive against rebels in Afghanistan, and radio reports in Afghanistan say the Soviets and Afghan government troops seized a strategic valley and overran some important rebel bases. How come nobody complains about that?
And this is what...
Did you grow up anti-Semitic, or did you become that way? What happened?
Anti-Semitic, but I do not believe, as the Talmud believes, that Christians, Muslims, or anyone else's blood is not important. Only the Jews.
Well, what is your problem? Why do you not like Israel?
I love Israel. I just don't like butchery. I do not believe that they are the only ones who have pure blood on this earth, and I do not believe they have the right.
What is it? What has this got to do with your claiming you like Israel?
I happen to like anyone who's a just person, but I do not feel in your stance or the butchery of anybody is...
What? Who's committing butchery?
Neither are you.
Who's committing butchery?
Well, who's committing butchery? Look at Lebanon.
You know what just occurred occurred to me? I'm wasting time with a sick person. Get off the phone, you creep! Oh, that felt good. His remarks after the fact that he would not denounce the remarks made by Louis Farrakhan, his trusted aide. It is obvious that were Jesse Jackson any other color, he would have been a faint memory on the political stage. Instead, he illuminates the horizon because his campaign is racist. His appeal is, if not racist, racial. And anybody who says otherwise is either A, a coward, or B, a liar, or maybe a combination of both. And the media has a double standard without doubt. We ought to clear up a couple of points. Number one, President Reagan's defense budget has not expanded outrageously or even modestly when compared with the past experience of the United States. Secondly, believe it or not, under this president, the amount of resources devoted to transfer payments, what I call handouts, has not declined but has actually increased.
And over here too, Jesse Jackson is a threat not only to America, to Israel, to the free world. I have here a copy of Freedom Ways magazine. Freedom Ways is put out by the Communist Party USA. And it's a magazine. They have various magazines aimed at various ethnic groups. And this is aimed at blacks. Now bear in mind, this is the Communist Party USA official black magazine. The lead article in it is by a man named Wyatt T. Walker. Now, Wyatt T. Walker, I debated Walker on the Brown Journal, the Tony Brown Journal. He is the national coordinator for Jesse Jackson. Incredible article.
Why did he write that article? He's not a member of the Communist Party.
Of course not. Of course not. You're right. Nevertheless, he is. You don't have to be white to be pink. You can be black, and you can have views that are very, very similar. And when he writes an article such as the establishment of Israel was at least an error, but more likely a crime, and as for the military tactics of the PLO, the history of the rape of their people's land dictates the singular objection of reestablishing a homeland by any means necessary. And when this magazine carries an article by a black Congressman, Gus Savage, who was also a Jackson backer, America in the Wrong, well then, there is a totality of interest between America and Israel and every freedom-loving nation and every freedom-loving person.
This is tangential, perhaps, but Wyatt Walker has been a guest on this station, never on my program, but he has been a guest on another program and was lauded by the host as though he were some special great person. I suspect, and this is pure surmise on my part, that the only reason he was lauded was because of this almost indefinable hold that black Americans, and in some cases black America, has on other people.
There is no question that while most human beings breathe air, most liberals breathe guilt. And this is part of this. Now, I think that someone would do an immense doctorate in abnormal psychology, in studying the insidious, corrosive effect of guilt. Most are almost bound. They are bound because they haven't got the courage to get up and say, we were wrong. And so that's why you can have a full-page ad in the Village Voice signed by some sick group called Jewish Americans for Jesse Jackson. Now, if they're as much Americans as they're Jewish, and I know them, people like Abby Hoffman, they're pretty, it's probably like the Holy Roman Empire, not Holy Net Roman Empire, hardly Jewish or anything else. And yet, these are Jews. felt like Barry Commoner, who the lowest common type that you can find. There is an incredible inability on my part to begin to understand such people. The fact of the matter is that a bully lives on his reputation. And we intend to put an end to the reputation of this nut out in Chicago. May 20th, we're going out to the temple. And we're going to demonstrate in front of the temple. And anytime Louis would like to come out, we'll be ready for Louis. And by the way, Les Campbell with Albert Van, and that's an important thing. I think you've given me this great opening here.
Al Van, head of the Jackson campaign in New York State.
That's right. Al Van, state assemblyman. Al Van, who may run for mayor in '85. Al Van, anti-Semite, white hater. Al Van, and nobody says a word about Al Van. I remember Van and Campbell. They were the two, open Jew haters. And here is Al Van, now lionized by Time magazine. Alexander Schindler has nothing to say about Van. Nobody has anything to say about Van. Well, I do.
Attention must be paid to Central America now that the president is back from what Pat Buchanan calls his Potemkin tour of this so-called communist China with its marvelous free market spirit. But now down to cases, and the cases are in Central America. The Reagan administration is following. He points out the classic prescription for a no-win war. You would have thought we had learned. Our fighting allies in Nicaragua and El Salvador are being given just enough in ammunition, weapons, and supplies to keep them bleeding to death, not enough to win. Before Congress is an administration request for $63 million for El Salvador, $21 million for Nicaragua, and with a combined total well beneath what the Reagan administration has requested this year for the National Endowment for the Arts. Did you know that? Well, next time anybody tells you there are Philistines in control, remind them that this request for aid to El Salvador and Nicaragua is less than the request for the National Endowment for the Arts. Why are micro-managers in charge? Well, he goes on to examine the situation. He says the political situation in El Salvador, allowing the hearts and minds specialists of the State Department to decide just how El Salvador should be reconstructed socially, economically, and politically, rather than demanding of the soldiers at the Pentagon that they come up with a plan for winning, that's a strange word, winning the war for Central America militarily by a date certain and soon. We are threatening our friends with cutoff and weapons if they do not vote for a man who bears a striking resemblance to Big Min, or if they do not fight their bloody guerrilla battles according to the rules of engagement set down by Cornwallis and Washington. We have set guidelines for the kinds of military actions that are permissible against the regime in Nicaragua, just as we set guidelines on what targets our pilots were allowed to strike in North Vietnam. We are searching for peace as though it were some holy grail to be discovered only after individual fasting and mortification and prayer. One is reminded of the search for peace. Those were the words he used. The search for peace upon which Lyndon Johnson used to send his hapless cabinet members scurrying around Europe. The principal difference between today and 15 years ago is that now the Ramsey Clarks and Jane Fondas are sitting in positions of power in the Congress of the United States. If Reagan will ask of Dean Rusk and Richard Nixon, what would they do differently if they had to fight the Vietnam War? Again, Rusk will likely tell him that they should have hit the North Vietnamese earlier and harder. And Nixon would likely tell him he would have moved up the mining of Haiphong and the bombing of Hanoi from the spring of 1972 to Inauguration Day of 1969. Not only is Reagan's place in history hanging upon the outcome of the war for Central America, so too is a world balance of power. Then he goes on to conclude, if El Salvador succumbs to a Tet offensive this fall, no excuses made on his behalf will spare Reagan historic responsibility. If El Salvador survives and Sandinistas are overthrown and expelled along with their Russian, Cuban, Libyan, PLO, and East German advisors, no amount of liberal caterwauling about America losing the moral high ground will diminish by a cubit Reagan's stature in history. Oh, and one footnote. He points out that the Ortegas and Tomas Borge and the other leftists in Central America are not Titoists. They are Leninists. But I'm very impressed by a report Linda Stevens files. Linda, who is a very talented reporter for the New York Post. And Linda says that she went up to 155th Street and St. Nicholas Avenue. Here's what she found. Since your tax dollars are going down a rat hole, you might as well know the ambience of that rat hole. Linda says, we're sitting on a sunny doorstep near 155th Street and St. Nicholas Avenue, and 8-year-old Denise is sure it doesn't matter that, quote, she can't read so good. I seen Flashdance. I ain't no dummy, she says, planting her hands on her hips. That girl didn't know nothing, and look at her. Hey, she made $1 million in that movie. She dances a few steps to make her point and adds, you ain't got to be reading to be no famous. A third grader, Georgie, follows as my finger moves along the lines on the page. With a little help, the images slowly begin to make sense to him. I think I read pretty good, he says proudly. I try hard, and my teacher, she helped me, but some words I can't read so good. Does your mama read to you, I ask him. No, silly, he says. She ain't got no time. Your father could read to you. I think he's gone, Georgie says. He isn't home a long time. Ernesto, curled up in my lap, may be 7 years old, if we understood each other right. For him, there is a book called Muppet Babies, full of infant Kermits and Gonzos. Babies, I tell him. Niños, he chirps back. Ernesto, whose Spanish is peppered with English, is probably in PS28's bilingual program. He is proficient in neither language. Standing close by, Teddy Anso is dribbling a basketball in figure eights through his legs. Why are you bothering them? Can they read? Asked Teddy, who was 17. White people like you gotta read for a job. When I turn pro, I'll hire somebody to tell me how big is my contract. The kids are listening to him, and what Teddy says speaks louder than this white lady who says they'd better learn to read. Not me, says Denise again. I seen Flashdance. In the good old days, I used to say, for whatever's on your mind, and then somebody said, people don't have anything on their minds. They wait for you to tell them. You will think this. No, I can't believe that. Not WMCA listeners. They're independent people. They're self-starters. Bob, I know you have influence. Take a look at this, how naive some people are. I know you have influence with the president. Like you, I'm fond of him. He is such a likable guy. But please, Bob, tell him to stop preempting Dynasty on Wednesday night when he has his press conference or gives a speech. If he doesn't change from Wednesday, I'll hold you responsible. Now, this letter was written several weeks ago, the last time the president had a press conference, which, of course, was on a Wednesday. So, you remember the good old days when we had a Monroe Doctrine and nobody questioned the fact that it was important to the United States of America, los Estados Unidos, that we should be concerned, had a right to be concerned, that this was our sphere of influence. And then came Castro, and people said, we're not going to allow that bum to last over there. That commie rat Fink, we're going to get rid of him, but we didn't, did we? Instead, he survived, he thrived. And he's exporting his revolution. He's got troops in Angola, you know. What's he doing there? Well, ask Andrew Young, ask Jesse Jackson. They think it's perfectly all right. But what's happened in Nicaragua? And the Sandinistas now are used as a battering ram for Castro, who in turn is a battering ram for the Soviet Union. Now, of course, because the left wing has had such a tremendous stranglehold on this country, and because we goofed in Vietnam, it's almost impossible for any administration to say, we got to knock those jerks off and go in there and move. We can't do it. We'll say, mea culpa, we're terrible, we're guilty of gunboat diplomacy and all those things. So we can't just go in there and do what we really should do. So instead, we have to play games. But instead of playing games to win, we play games to keep the other guy from winning, and that ain't winning. Thank you. Get Keith Leach in here and tear out that Westchester County line. There's no point in WMCA maintaining the cost of perpetuating that line because the people, I've decided after being at Cross County Shopping Center, the people have nothing to say there. Your local Monroe dealer, by the way, next guy that asked me was Goombata there. I'll punch in the mouth because Goombata did not show up. Remember, Goombata said he would only be there if Belagula was there, and Belagula was not there.